have a set of Prismacolors or colored pencils. 24 set is going to give you enough colors to work with. So you can lay that out. You also want a normal number 2 pencil and a kneaded eraser. Everything we draw with the pencil is going to get erased because all we want is color that's left. So that's very, very basic. Let's try something that is maybe a little more complex. I'd love to do an eye or a nose or something and talk about flesh tones, but the same thing happens. I mean, you could draw a person using blues and purples, all the colors that we've used here, and it's going to look okay. So let's try it. Let's just try it. I got my indigo blue, and rather than draw this out, if you wanted to use a pencil, you could use a pencil to draw it out first. I'm just going to go for it. Just going to start out with an eye. So I start out with the shape of the eye. It's almost an almond shape. The top lid is a little more curved though than the bottom lid. And the iris part, remember, it's just a little bracket. There's a half circle here. I'm going to skip over here and do a half circle over here. And the top of the circle is kind of cut off. Now I'm going to just darken that edge because I know that there's some eyelashes there. I also know that my light source, we're going to keep with this same light source. It's coming from this direction. So I know that there's going to be a highlight in there somewhere. But the highlight is going to live with the dark part of the pupil. So if I put in a pupil right there, I can kind of leave out just a little space for the highlight. So it's almost like a little Pac-Man shape. And each one's going to be a little different. Sometimes you got more highlight, sometimes less. And because I know that the eye, you know, I can add a little bit of darkness to the ring of the eye, where I can put in some little striations in there. You can even shade it just a little bit up at the top. No matter what color your eye is going to be, you might have it shaded just a little bit up at the top. This is establishing our values. I also know that there's going to be a little eyelid up in there. And I can even add a little bit of indigo blue for the eyebrow. You can do this all as if it were your pencil or your pen. Like I say, you could do this all with just pencil if you're a little timid about drawing. And because our light source is coming from this direction, I know that somewhere in here is going to be a shadow across the brow, across the bridge of the nose. And over here, there might be a little shadow too, just a little bit around the eye. Because the eye is rounded, it's going to kind of pop out anyway. So this is just like I did over here with the sphere and establishing, you know, your shadows and things. That's what I'm going to do over here. And I know where my light source is coming from. I know where my highlights are. There's a couple of highlights that I just know are going to happen. One of them is, of course, on the eye, that little shine in the eye. The other one is right underneath the iris. Right in there is going to be a little shine. And so I can take my yellow pencil, and depending on, you know, what kind of colors you want to use, this is that, I don't know what it's called, Spanish orange, kind of a yellow. I can even go into my blue if I wanted to, and all of a sudden you're going to get this kind of green color. But because it's orange and blue in there, it's going to go kind of gray. But it's going to look green. but it's going to be on the gray side. I mean, it's just kind of a weird. Here's a little bit under the eye. So that kind of helps establish my flesh tone. And just like we did with the sphere, we can start adding colors wherever you want to. What color is the eye going to be? It's totally up to you. I suppose blue eyes would work here, but you could do green. You can do whatever color you want to. And if they're brown, you may want to use some brown, but don't just use brown. So I like to use other colors in with it. I'm going to go to my violet blue and maybe shade a little bit of that violet blue in there. Remember, just right below there, on the bottom part of your iris, it's very light. I mean, not that you're leaving it out, but you do want to put less color in down here. You got reflected light that's bouncing off your eye. And later on, we may want to put in some of that red or the yellow up in there. You know, depending on what you got. And we may have to add some black to that pupil. That is a dark area. But it's going pretty dark. Maybe we could leave it that way. Indigo blue is a good color for that. This is just the violet blue. Last thing to put in is going to be your eyelashes. But I still want that dark edge up there. And right around where your eyelid fits into your eye, there's probably a little darkness up in there too. So just going over some of those really dark areas. Maybe a little shadow under the eye, just a little here and there. That core shadow. Any place that you feel like, oh, it's got a little darkness. However you want to do it. Here's my poppy red. Now I want to do the same thing I did up in here, is I want to transition from the dark that I've got down in here up into the light. So I'm going to do the same thing. Just going to kind of go over with some of the poppy red. You can go into your shadows with it. Just come up. Now, I know the white part of my eye isn't exactly white. It has some shadow on it. But I want it to be a little different than the shadow on the skin. So I'm going to use some of that mulberry on there. And especially right at the very top. So there's a little bit of mulberry up in there. You can just a little bit down wherever you feel like you need it. It's going to add a little bit of shadow to it. It's a little different than the other. Sometimes I'll use light blue up in there. Sometimes I'll use a green, depending on what's around it. But we've already had mulberry in there. Might as well use some of that mulberry in there. I may want to put some of that in my eye around. Maybe not so much at the bottom, but maybe around it. You can put it wherever you want to. All done?
Do you want to cover over
I
this?
do.
That's what I thought.
Okay, so inside that closet, just around the corner, you'll see them all stacked up there. And just find the right size. You can take the picture with you and compare the edge to it. So some transition there from the red. Again, you can put that anywhere you want to because it's all about values, not so much color. And then you just kind of go back and forth until you get the right values. Now, just like we did our sphere, we said, we really want that to pop. We want that dark. We need that contrast. So you can go back into with your indigo blue, whatever you want. I'm going to go back into I'm going to start with the pupil, go into the indigo blue, add a little bit of pressure to that, get that to really pop. And I don't think you understand how much contrast really does for your drawing until you start doing something like this. And it really comes out and you think, wow, it's a little darker, heavier than I thought I needed, but boy, it just makes it pop. So that's sometimes when it's square like that, that's what you got to do. So what you do, you just get it into one corner and then fold it around and tape it. Okay. And there's tape on my desk under that lamp there. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Use any of your dark colors. If we were doing something with green, you might have a dark green. It's all about the values, you know, not so much the colors. Colors not important. This is blue violet. So you look at her eye, or its eye, whoever that is, you think, oh, what color, is that eye? I don't know. It just is what it is. You may even want to take some yellow in there and just put a little yellow in there. And that yellow is going to make it warm. Look how that just warms it right up. Wow. Even over the blue, it kind of turns kind of greenish gray. But it just warms it right up. Look how warm that eye got. Here's some blue violet over that magenta or mulberry, whatever color that is. Again, it's all about values. You just keep layering it in until you're happy with what you're getting. I shouldn't say happy, until you're satisfied with what you're getting. Because I'm never happy with anything I do. Well, that's not true. Sometimes I am. But you want your drawings to just feel like they're popping off the page, and that's it for us, folks. Have a wonderful weekend.